I'm gonna just go through my workflow for reducing image file sizes and converting to PDF. And I'd like to think that most of this is pretty obvious, but it's always interesting to see how somebody else does this kind of stuff. So, first of all, I'll bring up my Finder. And what I've done is I've set up 3 folders. One will contain the images that the full size images that I now wish to reduce in size and convert. The second folder will contain the resized JPEG images. These are resized to 1920 pixels on the longest edge. Finally, the PDF files that have been converted from these smaller file size PDFs. The reason I do this is just in case things go slightly wrong or I change my mind, having the images in different folders means that I don't have to go back to the start every time. Okay, so I like to do this in Adobe Bridge. So these are the files that we've just looked at, and here we can see the full res files, and these are the pixel dimensions and the size in megabytes. They're huge and not really suitable for a PDF format. So I've converted all of these apart from this image. So in Bridge, if I double click on a JPEG, it will open automatically in Photoshop, and I will go to image size, or you can do Command Shift I, and here we've got a width and a height and a resolution. Okay, so all I'm going to do is keep these 2 constrained, and I'm going to type in there 1920. So that gives us 1920 by 1280 as our pixel dimension. Okay, and if I hit Command and 0, it just goes full screen, and we can see that there's a lot of image detail going on there. Okay, so now I'm going to save this, Command Shift S, and I'm going to save this into my resize to 1920. I'm just going to click on the last one to bring up the name and call that number 10. So it's a JPEG, and I'm embedding the color profile. Save as a maximum JPEG, okay, and close that down. If I now go back to Bridge and I go to the resize, we can see that this is now 1280 by 1920 pixels and a much more reduced file size. But this is still quite big. It doesn't take many images to kind of use up an awful lot of space. So what I'm going to do now is to look at these 2 images here and double click to open. Okay, so these have now been resized down to 1920 by 1280 pixels, and I'm going to convert these to PDF. So the best way to do this is just to go to File, Save As, or Command Shift S, and I'm going to save these in my 3rd folder. I've already saved some, but this is number 1, and this is the one that I want to save as a PDF. So on the drop down here, Photoshop PDF. I don't need to save it as a copy. I'll embed the color profile and hit save. It will now give me some options. I can add a description. You can see I've been imaginative there. High quality print, that's ideal. Compatibility, Acrobat 5 or later should do the trick. And really the other thing you need to think about is if you want to embed page thumbnails, for when you view it in preview perhaps, and optimize for fast web preview. So that's the only one that I really want to keep. And then compression. Okay, so here we can keep the bicubic downsampling as it is. And with this particular image, so remember this, I want to keep this compression as JPEG and maximum. Okay, and I'm now going to close that. This image I am going to now save in the same folder, and I'm going to save it as a Photoshop PDF again, not as a copy. Embed color profile. Okay, so what I want to do now, everything should be the same. Compression, I'm going to just save this as high, and there's a reason for me to do this. Everything else is the same. Save PDF and W. Okay, so if I go to Bridge, we can see that if I go to the PDF folder, this first image that was saved as maximum, here we've got the size as 2.36 megabytes. Okay. With this one that was saved as a high as 3.24 kilobytes. So that's a third of a megabyte, significantly smaller. And this is useful to know if you are planning to use a number of images in your portfolio. Okay, right, so now I'm going to go back to Photoshop and we'll show you the difference of those two images. And in Photoshop I'm going to choose to go to File and Automate and PDF Presentation. Here we've got some options, and you can include descriptions of file names. I'm not going to do that now, I don't think. And I need to choose the images that I want. So the three folders that I had there, if I just show you that I'm going to shift and click to select all of the PDFs that I've just resized and open. Okay. If I click save, I just need to decide on where I want these to go and give it a title, so PDF1, and I'm just going to go in this top level folder, Fashion Chat, and save. Now it's now going to give me the same option as we saw before. It's just worth checking. Yeah, there's a maximum there, which is what I want. Okay, and then finally save PDF. So this is going to combine all of those PDF images into one document. And if I go to Bridge and find that folder, here it is. We can see that the total file size for that document is 5.77 megabytes. So that's pretty good. I think there's 10 images in there. So if I double click on that, we can now see the quality of the images. Okay, I can go to actual size, or we can zoom in. So we can see there's quite a lot of quality there currently. And if I just scroll through the images, I'm happy with that quality. So what I wanted to show you here, the first image, or the second image rather, was the one that we saved as just high for the compression settings. So we can see there's a breakdown of image here. It's not as crisp and clear as I would like. Whereas the second one has really good detail. Okay, so this was saved as maximum and this one was saved as high, as were these images. So I would say they're okay. You can see there's some breakdown of image quality there, but it really all depends on how big you view them at. If you're viewing them or if they're being viewed at that size, that's acceptable, I would say. Okay, so if I just close this a second, and we can see this is our PDF here, and we can see the size of it. So if I check that and I go to File and Save as Other and Reduce Size PDF, this gives me the option to add a file. So I'm going to select that one that's already there. I could give it another name if I wanted to. I'm going to add this file and it's showing me the size. So the reason I'm showing you this, it might be that you've got lots and lots of images and you want to actually resize these kind of further. So by creating a reduced size PDF, we can trim this down quite significantly. Okay, so I'm gonna okay that. I'm gonna retain existing. Okay, I'm gonna just, because I can, change the name slightly. So I'm gonna call this V2 after the original file name, and I'm going to let it resize. Okay, so if I bring back Bridge or Finder, there's the V2. I'm going to open that and just going to look through and think, okay, there's a little bit of a slight loss of quality there, perhaps a little bit of fuzziness there, maybe a little bit more there. That's not too bad. Still kind of acceptable, I think. And that's pretty good. Slight bit of fuzziness when there's some detail there. But if I just close it down, the difference is that this original one was 5.8 megabytes. This is now 600 kilobytes. Just about half a megabyte. So that's a significant saving in space. So the reason I'm showing you this is to kind of give you the option, and it really is doing some very slight tests to work out what is the best option, and to show you what can happen, I suppose, if you do reduce the file size. And it is a compromise between quality of image and a reduction of file size. So now I'm going to have a look at a Word document. And again, you know, that I hope you guys know this, but I've got some little tips and tricks that might be useful. So here's a bit of just copy, you know, a bit of stuff that I've grabbed and put together. And I want to eventually combine this with the other PDFs that I've done previously. But one of the things that I'm aware of is that many of you may want to also include video. So video naturally contains lots of information and is going to be in really large file sizes. So one of the things that I'd recommend is, if you've created video, then it's worth putting that video content onto a YouTube channel or a Vimeo channel, or at least finding some way of linking to it. So in this case, what I want to do is to add 2 bits of video to this bit of text here. So to do this, I'm going to first of all open up my YouTube page, and this is a video I want to show about Osman Yusufzada. Okay, and I click on share and copy the link. So I'm sure you've all done this. And then go back to my Word doc, and then if I click on and select the text there, if I now control click, create hyperlink and paste that link, okay, we can now see it's highlighted in blue and underlined, so now this is a hyperlink. So I'm going to go back to YouTube. Found a bit of video about Eugene Shishkin, who's a fashion photographer, and again I'm going to click on the link there, copy that, go back to my Word, select the text, control click hyperlink, and paste that link. Okay. So I'm not going to click on these, but these will take us straight to these films behind here. So the next thing I want to do, this is a Word document, and I'm sure you have quite a few of these, and I want to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save this as a PDF, believe it or not. Okay, you can decide how best you want to do this. I think I'm going to keep this here for best for electronic distribution, and then I am going to save this in my fashion chat, export, there we go. It's now saved as a PDF in fashion chat. So then if I go to, let's go to Adobe Bridge again, we can see there it is. Okay, so very small file size. If I double click on this, it will open within Acrobat. Okay, and we can see the links on here, which are hyperlinks. Excellent. I'm just going to close that now. So we can see previously I've got the PDF, the smaller file size version I've got there, and the Osman copy with the links to video on that. And then across the top here in Acrobat we can see there's combined files. So if I add the files that I want to combine, that one and that one, just command, so those are the 2 that I want. Okay, add files, and there we go, they're ready to go, and I'm just combining those files. Let's see what happens. So we've got the text there, and these now exist in that same folder. Okay, obviously that's a slightly different file size, and these are slightly different size images, and again I would say that there's some slight failings in my mind with Acrobat for putting stuff together, but ultimately, if I close this now, this is now titled Binder, and I can rename that should I wish. Just going to close that, and it's going to go in Fashion Chat there. I'm going to call it Final PDF. Save. Okay, so there's my final PDF, and it's only 665 kilobytes. The great thing about that is that I can have my copy here. I can then also link directly to video in YouTube or Vimeo, etc. And then I've got the images, and all of these can be viewed at a different size. You can select 200, etc. And as I said previously, it's up to you whether you think that's acceptable or not. It would be possible to combine the previous PDF of images with the Osman, which will then give us a larger file size, obviously, of around about just over 6 megabytes, but at a higher quality. So there's the options and the compromises. I hope this has been useful, and I wish you well with creating your PDF portfolios. Thanks.